The bayou has its own way of breathing. When the sun dips low, the air gets heavy, thick enough to choke the life out of a man who isn't ready for it. It's a place where the past doesn't just sit, it waits. In 1934, the cicadas sang a song that felt like a warning, a constant rhythmic buzzing that vibrated in your teeth. Most folks were too busy survival to notice the shift in the air, but I felt it. I was just 12 years old. My world was the width of a fishing line and the length of a swamp trail. I carried the day's catch, thinking only of dinner and the cool of the shade, unaware that I was about to step into legend. I pushed aside the willow branches, looking for a shortcut home. But there, tucked deep in the shadows where no machine should be, was a tan Ford V8. It sat there like a sleeping beast, covered in the dust of 1,000 miles. The door creaked open and he stepped out. Clyde. He looked like he was made of the same dry gravel he'd been driving on. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a low grind, the kind of sound that makes the hair on your neck stand up. Beside him, Bonnie watched. She didn't look like a killer then. She just looked tired. Tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. She had this frantic energy in her eyes, like she was looking for a way out that didn't exist. They were hungry, not just for food, but for something human. I gave them my fish, and they ate like they hadn't seen a meal in a month. In that swamp, for just a few minutes, we weren't a boy and two outlaws. We were just three souls in the heat. Before they left, he reached out. His hand was scarred, rough as bark. He pressed a $2 bill into my palm. To a boy like me, it was a fortune. To them, I think it was a way of saying thank you for a piece of peace they knew wouldn't last. Then the engine roared. It was a sound that didn't belong to the bayou, a mechanical scream that tore through the quiet. They drove off into the dust, leaving me standing there with a secret that felt heavier than the catfish I'd been carrying. The next morning, the heat on Highway 154 was unbearable. The road felt like it was waiting for something. Even the birds had gone quiet. It was the kind of silence that precedes a disaster. Then came the roar again. That V8 wasn't just driving, it was screaming. It tore down that road like it was trying to outrun time itself. I stood back in the trees, my heart hammering against my ribs. It happened in a heartbeat. 130 shots. The air didn't just vibrate, it shattered. It was a barrage so loud it made the world go white. I saw the flashes, felt the heat of the lead cutting through the humidity. I watched it all. I saw the fire and the smoke. I saw the end of the line for the two people who had shared my fish just hours before. The world felt like it was tearing apart right in front of my eyes. When the shooting stopped, the silence was worse than the noise. The air turned thick with the smell of burnt powder and iron, a metallic scent that clings to you, that gets inside your skin and never truly leaves. Folks started coming out of the woodwork. They stood there in the dust, staring at what was left of that beautiful machine and the souls inside it. I stood among them, clutching that $2 bill so hard it left a mark. I knew then that the money was more than just currency. It was a tether, a connection to something that had been extinguished in a hail of lead. I tucked it deep in my pocket, promising myself I'd never tell a soul. The bayou reclaimed its silence that night, but it was a different kind of quiet, a haunted quiet. Act one of my life had ended, and the debt was just beginning to accrue. Years turned into a decade. I went off to war, saw the world bleed in ways I never thought possible. But no matter where I went, the smell of burnt powder and the glint of that tan V8 followed me in my dreams. By 1945, I was back home driving a taxi on those same lonely roads. I thought I'd outrun the shadows of 34. I thought the bayou had finally forgotten. I was wrong. The road was empty, the moon was hidden, and the air was about to turn to ice. This was just the beginning of the final fare, to be continued in Chapter 2.